All right, man. I had to make sure I rocked at least one primary color so I can talk about this, bro. Everyone who was talking all that trash before this movie came out, it's time to shut up and sit down, all right? Long before the movie came out, I kept hearing, oh, he looks so weak. Why is he getting beaten up? There's a legit story reason for this. And if you've been paying attention to the trailers or any of the news and you know who Ultraman is, you would understand why. Oh, there are too many characters. How's James Gunn going to focus on just Superman and Clark Kent? How many characters were in Captain America Civil War? How many characters were in Barbie? Do we have any problems following what was going on in that movie? I don't think so. Oh, the costume. The costume looks so cheap. It looks so dumb. All right, I'm with you there. But I do think there's a reason for that, which I'll get to later. Look, if you don't know, Superman is my favorite character ever in all of fiction, okay? Anyone who knows me has to look no further than my car or the thumbnail I'm going to leave up for this video. So I came into this just praying that we'd get at least just a decent Superman movie. We got a great Superman movie. Something that takes us millennials back to the days of the Justice League and Superman the Animated Series, bruh. So, for this review, I'm going to say it now. We're going to have to call up Dunkin'. We're going to have to do something special. We have to call up Dunkin' Donuts and Krispy Kreme, bruh. The glaze is about to be OC. Let's talk about it. So, Superman the movie. Before I get to everything I loved, I have to talk about what I didn't like. That's how we do it here. We're going to end with sweets, and there's a lot of sweet. But the sours. First, the costume. I mentioned it. It looks a little homemade. It looks like something you or I could do and wear. And I wasn't feeling that. Now, in this movie, and, in comic lore, Superman's his mother, his human mother, does make his costume sometimes. So there's a story reason behind that as to why it looks like that. But, people are going to feel how they feel. Just it doesn't look movie grade, if that makes sense. Now, that's literally just being nitpicky. Obviously in the future, the costumes are going to change and they'll probably get better. But in this movie, I think you will notice that sometimes it doesn't look the best. Next, we're going to talk about exposition. This movie delivers exposition a little weird. Now, its beginning, let me say this. The way it starts by introducing you to this world, I thought it was excellently done because, there's a lot of information you have to know. But the way this movie begins, just like text on a screen, just like in a comic book, like how a narrator will start with the text boxes explaining the setting, right? They'll say like, hey, 300 years ago, this happened and metahumans appeared. 30 years ago, a spaceship crashed, 3 years ago, this happened. 3 days ago, this happened. 3 hours ago, this happened. And 3 minutes ago, this happened. And you're all caught up right there. I thought that was a good use of exposition. But this movie has some weird conversations, bro. Some conversations that characters wouldn't normally have if there wasn't a camera there. So the audience needed to know, right? So for example, let's imagine we're watching a movie and there's this guy named Derek, right? And Derek, when we see him, he carries around an EpiPen all the time. And when he's at a diner, he asks the waitress, hey, can you make sure that, my food's not cooked in peanut oil? If he says it like that, then, we can surmise, oh, this guy has a peanut allergy. That's good exposition, right? It's not directly in your face. Now, juxtapose that to something like, hey, yo, did you make it to work today? Nah, I didn't. But guess what? Derek's allergic to peanuts. You see how unnatural that is? People don't have conversations like that, right? Now, the movie isn't that egregious as the example I gave you, but there are at least 2 moments where I'm like, why are you talking? Now, obviously, the audience needs to know that's why they're talking about it. But there's not a good movie reason. Like, for example, there's a conversation about the red sun and what red suns can do to Superman. And it's like, Clark, you wouldn't talk about this to these characters. So why are you doing it? Giving us exposition was it was a little strange. But again, not anything that hinders the movie, just something I noticed. Okay, so you know what? I was going to move on, but there's one more thing I literally just remembered in this movie that I did not like. I need to talk about it. It has to do with Jor-El and Lara. They are in this. Those are Superman's parents from Krypton, the ones who sent him to Earth. There is a character decision made with those two and Kryptonians in general that kind of changes the lore on them a little bit. And I was not a fan of it at all, bro. I love me some James Gunn, but I need him to either explain this quick, fast, in a hurry or reverse this decision. It's super selfish of me to say I know, but this is my review. Look, you're gonna know what I'm talking about because it plays a major factor in the story, which is why I can't say too much because it would be a spoiler. But there's just a decision made about Jor-El and Lara, and I just I was not a fan of it at all, bruh. That is not it's not the way I remember Jor-El and Lara, and I ain't like it. So I'm thinking that I'm not sure if this is the way they're going to stick with it, and I'll be paying attention in future DC movies to see if this is ever addressed again. Supergirl being the next movie coming out. But yeah, let me just say I wasn't a fan. When you watch it, you'll know what I'm talking about. That we can talk about in the comments, y'all. So the first suite is going to have to be the world that this takes place in. We are put into a world where dimensional rifts open up. Talks of black holes on the planet and pocket dimensions are just normal, right? And that does this movie a great service because since the citizens of this world are used to that happening, when it's said, the movie doesn't have to take time to explain it to those citizens and thereby explain it to us. We as audience members can just see, the citizens just accept that giant monsters pop up and dimensional rifts open up and let giant jellyfish through. So the movie is actually better because of that, since it doesn't have to take its time to explain all these things to us. And we're dropped into a world that's been very much lived in, and we're caught up to it really quick. Dug it. Speaking of the world, there are definitely going to be some parallels drawn to some real world events. Some people are not going to like it. Some people are probably going to be indifferent towards it. I liked the movie, so I want to talk about it. This Superman, I have a friend named Kendrick, who always tells me, yo, if Superman were real, I don't think he could live on this planet as is. Because with all the messed up things happening all around the world, if Superman existed, do you think he would just sit around and let it happen? Of course not. And in this movie, he doesn't. That's what sets off the movie. You saw it in the trailer. He interferes with things when he sees things aren't right. He goes overseas and interferes with them. And I love this Superman for it. He has a personality. That's the biggest thing about this. So many people were talking about, the Superman says things like dude, and he's talking like a millennial, and he's cracking jokes. Like, yeah, give him a personality. Don't make him stoic. He's always usually seen as this symbol, this messiah, right? And I dig that too. But if you think about it, Superman is a dude. He's a regular dude who grew up in Kansas and played football and watched sports and dated girls and ate ice cream and all this other stuff, bro, right? So it makes sense for him to act like a normal dude. He wants to be human. There's a great speech he gives about it, but he just wants to be one of us. But he has these powers, so he knows he has a responsibility to be more. Which, as an aside, that is actually why I like Superman so much. His Uncle Ben didn't die. His parents weren't murdered. He wasn't threatened by someone. He wasn't experimented on. He had these powers, and he knew that with these powers, he could help the world. So he decided to help the world. That's why he is my favorite superhero. Now, David Cornsweet, or Cornsweet, I'm going to say Cornsweet. I hope that's okay. Him and James Gunn did a great job bringing this character to life. Henry Cavill, I think, probably looks better as a Superman, but this dude, David Cornsweet, I mean, he stepped into these boots admirably. So, he has that kind of millennial mentality because he's around 30 in this movie. But at the same time, for traditionalists, he's still the Boy Scout. He still says oh gosh and darn it and oh golly and things like that, right? So it's an interesting balance that they were able to find where you're like, wow, this dude is a corny Boy Scout, while at the same time acknowledging, he's a cool dude I'd love to get a beer with. So it's dope. Kudos to him. He did a fantastic job. But the best actor in this movie, and I don't think it's close, is Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor. Nicholas Hoult was supposed to be Superman. I think he would have been a good Superman. I knew he was going to be a great Lex, and he was excellent. Maniacal genius with emphasis on maniacal. Lex Luthor, what he is in the comic books, he is a human who hates Superman solely because he doesn't like that an alien has come and become the savior of humanity. In his mind, human beings should take care of human affairs. So to him, when he sees the world acknowledging and praising Superman, he's like, no, what is wrong with you? This alien came and all he's done is shown us our inadequacy. We should be the ones taking care of us. That is Lex Luthor's mentality, and this movie got it right, y'all. It was so good to see. Nicholas Hoult hates Superman. Oh, I'm sorry. This Nicholas Holt's Lex Luthor hates Superman, and it is very, very easy to see. It's so fun to watch his plotting and his crazy kind of, each take focus. He goes from crazy to genius to crazy to genius to crazy to genius, and you're just seeing him unravel at certain points, but then do something brilliant at another point. It's really, really good, y'all. And he's so manipulative, so good at being bad that like you honestly, this movie does it for all the people who don't understand how someone like a regular person like Lex Luthor can be a villain to a Superman. This movie will show you. And I'll talk about that more in a little bit, but just know this is probably the best Lex I've seen. I was about to say the best Lex I've seen in live action, but I did that pause because I wasn't sure. Now, I did like Gene Hackman, but I don't know if that's nostalgia talking. I mean, Gene Hackman had clearly been the best live action I've seen up till now. John Cryer in the Arrowverse is actually very good, surprisingly. But yeah, I'm confident in saying that Nicholas Hoult is probably my favorite Lex Luthor. Yeah, I think I can say that. Maybe recency bias. I'm sure I'm going to watch the movie again, so I'll confirm. But I'm comfortable saying that, and yeah, that's what it is. He was definitely my favorite character in this movie, and I can't wait to see what the future holds for them. Now, I could talk about all the other characters for days on end. They're all good, but I really want to focus on Crypto and Guy Gardner. Um, both hilarious. Crypto, I think, James Gunn mentioned that he was based on just a bad dog he had, and you can see it here. And Crypto's in the movie a lot. So there are some people I can see who might get irritated with how much screen time Crypto has. Not me. I loved him every time he was on screen, but I can definitely see people maybe getting frustrated with his antics at certain points. It never really, it doesn't like, it's not like it goes on for too long. It's just, excuse me. So like he pops up a lot, and there might be some people who'd be like, man, I'm tired of seeing this dog. But Guy Gardner, I was so worried about Guy Gardner, and he is definitely the best of the secondary characters. After Superman and Lex, I think Guy Gardner is my favorite. And he's not even in the movie that long. Nathan Fillion, I mean, he has the charisma. I don't know why I was worried about it. He's so good. So good. If you don't know Guy Gardner from the comics, he's an arrogant, smart mouth, act first, think later Green Lantern. And that comes across excellently in this movie. And I love that they actually addressed his stupid bowl cut because I was wondering why they chose that look from the comics for him. But yeah, he was so good as the leader of the Justice Society, or the Justice Gang, as they're called in this movie. And his chemistry with Superman is something that I did not know I needed. I really, really liked it. Also, something else I have to mention, this film is definitely a huge departure from the Snyderverse in that it is very much, it's lighthearted and hilarious. It is so funny. So funny, bro. All of the characters have a moment where they'll make you laugh. Clark Kent / Superman will make you laugh. His mother, Ma Kent, Jimmy Olsen, Lois Lane, Wendell Pierce's Perry, chief of the Daily Planet. Of course, Lex. I just mentioned Guy Gardner and Crypto. Mr. Terrific has the best line in this movie, and it's not even close, bro. When you see it, you'll know, and our theater was clapping. You'll be clapping too. It was so good and so funny and so accurate. Yeah, man. So James Gunn did his thing, bro. I know his comedy's not for everyone, but I think that this time around it worked really well, and it was for me. Now, I didn't even talk about the action yet. because so much of the movie was so good, and I didn't even like the action was kind of secondary to the script, the character development, and the well, to the script of the character development, right? But the action was really good. Now, Superman is in action from the opening tap. In this movie, I mentioned that it shows why Lex is a very good villain. So Ultraman, the one that people apparently didn't know, is working with Lex Luthor in this movie. But Lex Luthor has been studying Superman for so long that he's actually trained Ultraman how to fight him. So using earpieces and cameras, Lex Luthor will say something like use move 2B, which would be like, like a right cross. So he'll say 2B, right cross will come from Ultraman and hit Superman in the face, right? Then he'll say 3C, then he'll fly down, grab Superman, and like power bomb him, right? Superman is coming at him. He'll say avert with 5F. And Ultraman will then just move out the way, grab Superman, and maybe kick him. And then Lex will say, like, I don't know, 10C, and then he'll grab his, and then Ultraman will spin Superman around and throw him into a building. Like stuff like that, right? But the way the movie cut this, right? It was so good that it actually looked like Lex Luthor himself was fighting. So there's a point where Lex is like 1A, which is like a straight punch, right? So he's like 1A, and then he'd punch the air. And as he's punching the air, the camera shifts to Ultraman punching Superman in the face. So it looks like Lex is actually fighting Superman, and Superman's fighting him back. It was brilliantly done. I loved that scene every time it happened. So good. So yeah, Superman's fights were definitely, trust me, you're going to see the super in the Superman. All of you who may have been worried that he was going to be nerfed or anything like that, trust me, he's not. Especially in the third act, your bodies start falling. It's so good. But Superman, that is, actually has the second best action scene in his movie. The first belongs to Mr. Terrific. He has a scene very reminiscent of is his name Vondu from Guardians of the Galaxy, the dude with the needle on his head. In Volume 2, he had the needle flying around in the spaceship. I'm Mary Poppins, y'all. Y'all know who I'm talking about. But another James Gunn directed scene. This scene and let me say this correctly. That scene from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, in which he's using the needle to kill everybody on the ship, is very reminiscent to what Mr. Terrific did in this movie out in the desert. I don't know if it's better because it's very clear that it borrows from it. It's, everything down to like the musical choice, but it definitely worked in this movie, and our theater had a ball watching it. So yeah, man. Yeah, this movie dispelled all fears I had. I'm actually excited for a DC movie. I'm excited for Superman, y'all. Like, I'm excited for what comes next in the future. We got Supergirl coming down the pipe. We got a Batman movie coming out, Wonder Woman. Oh, let me remember, Hawkgirl. Hawkgirl doesn't do a whole lot in this movie, but she makes one major decision that Superman wouldn't really agree with. And that's just going to be interesting because seeing how Superman will deal with that will lead us to see how he'll deal with the other heroes when they come into the DCU. And I can't believe that Hawkgirl thing just made me remember something else. Every character in this movie, every single one of them, had a badass moment. All of them, yo. James Gunn definitely tried to say he saved the best. He tried to save the best moments for Superman in his movie, but it's incredible how much attention he gave to the other characters and showing like, yeah, you should be excited to see their projects when they come out too. All right, yeah, I'm done talking, y'all. I'm gonna wrap it for a minute. This movie gave me everything I wanted. There are, a decent amount of characters, but this is clearly a Superman movie. And it shows that Superman really is like the one who reigns above them all and the one who this universe is going to revolve around. You can clearly see why they made this the first movie in their reboot. For the first time, I'm excited for superhero movies again. Fantastic Four comes out in a few weeks. I'm definitely watching that. I'm going to be looking out for Supergirl and Batman and the Paradise Island and Lanterns that's coming out on HBO. Like Peacemaker's coming out next month. So yeah, this movie did its job. Like I said, though, it's not perfect. It definitely has its issues. So Superman for me, be getting a 4.5 out of 5. This was a long one. Thank you so much for watching and hearing me rant about my favorite comic book character. Who is your favorite comic book character? I'm actually interested in knowing about that. And when you see this movie, of course, hit us up on the gram, TikTok, down in the comments. We appreciate you guys. And until next time, I'm out.